A wounded man named Jack sits alone in a parking lot, surrounded by gang members ready to kill him.
I'm gonna eat your fucking face.
He was supposed to eliminate a man named Payback, but instead, he murdered Payback's family and let him escape. Suddenly, a massive man wearing a shirt with a large cross arrives. It's Payback himself. Without hesitation, he opens fire on the gang, taking several of them down immediately. One of the gang members, however, has powers that make him immune to bullets, forcing Payback into a brutal hand-to-hand fight. Displaying raw strength and precision, Payback breaks the man's leg and arm, then finishes the last gangster by crushing his skull with his bare hands. Jack believes he's been rescued, but he's wrong. Payback only saved him to take his revenge personally. Jack was the one who killed Payback's daughter, and Payback wants to be the one to end his life. Calmly, he loads his gun and shoots Jack in the head. Before he can leave the scene, police arrive and arrest him. In this world, many people have supernatural powers: control over electricity, superhuman strength, or deadly energy blasts. To manage these threats, the government built the most secure and advanced prison ever created, designed to hold the most dangerous superpowered criminals. Payback is now being transferred there, sentenced to life for the murder of 40 to 50 people. The prison is controlled by a corrupt figure named Walton Devlin, who prefers to be called the Overseer instead of Warden. Rumors swirl that he executes any inmate who tries to escape, though Devlin denies everything when questioned by the media. He openly admits the prison wasn't made for reform. It was built to make criminals suffer.
It ain't near far enough.
Soon, a new group of inmates arrives, including the infamous Payback. A security officer named Captain Brody informs them that their powers are now suppressed by a device called the Power Nullifying Equipment, PNE, locked onto each inmate's leg. This device ensures that no powers can be used inside the facility. Among the new arrivals is someone who stands out, not because he's dangerous, but because he's different. His name is Diego Diaz, and his ability allows him to sense the emotions of others. Unlike the rest of the violent inmates, Diego is gentle, and survival in this brutal environment will be a challenge. When Officer Morales scans his abilities, she laughs and warns him to stay alert. When it's Payback's turn, Morales instantly recognizes the danger he poses. Another guard mocks him, saying he doesn't look so terrifying in person. But when Payback gives him a cold, threatening stare, the guard quickly backs off, prompting a quiet laugh from Payback. Without warning, Morales punches Payback in the stomach, forcing him to his knees. She has super strength and makes it clear she won't tolerate any attitude. After that, the inmates are issued their supplies and sent to their cells. Later, Payback heads to the prison yard, where he crosses paths with another inmate named Jim, the brother of someone Payback had killed. Jim is already waiting for him, fueled by vengeance. Without hesitation, the two clash in a brutal brawl. Payback launches a series of heavy punches straight into Jim's face, drawing blood with every hit. Inside the control room, Devlin watches the fight unfold on the CCTV monitors. Clearly entertained, Morales and the guards remain still, watching the violence without lifting a finger to stop it. Elsewhere in the yard, Diego talks with another inmate named Gordon. Shocked by the guards in action, Diego asks if they're really just going to let the fight continue. Gordon answers calmly, "The staff won't step in unless someone's on the brink of death." Back in the ring, Jim manages to land a solid elbow to Payback's nose, making it bleed. Payback doesn't flinch. Instead, he calmly draws a cross on his face using his own blood. Fueled by fury and conviction, he regains control of the fight and begins overpowering Jim. Just as he's about to end it, the guards finally intervene, zapping both men with electric batons. Morales orders Payback to stand down. He refuses. She responds with force, beating him into submission. Later, Gordon grows more familiar with Diego, treating him like an old friend. he offers Diego a quick orientation, a survival guide for the prison. Rule 1. Never make a mess, especially in shared areas. Rule 2. Stay out of other inmates' business. Getting involved could add years to your sentence. And Rule 3. Never owe anyone anything. Not the guards, not the inmates. Gordon comes across as one of the few decent men inside, a guy trying to earn his parole through good behavior. He shares these rules with Diego out of genuine concern, hoping to help him stay out of trouble. Curious, Diego asks about an infamous prisoner, the Lobe. Rumor has it he once forced a mother to murder her entire family using mind control. Gordon's tone drops as he nods toward a nearby cell, confirming that the Lobe is indeed held here. He warns Diego never to interact with him. Even with his abilities locked by the P&E device, the Lobe is still considered the most dangerous inmate in the facility. Just then, a massive mutant inmate walks by. He's built like a monster, muscles bulging, towering over everyone. That's Darius, the Lobe's personal enforcer. Even Gordon falls silent when Darius is near. At that same moment, the Lobe is escorted into a dark chamber for another parole hearing. His face is restrained by a metal cage designed to block his facial expressions, preventing any attempt at mental manipulation. The room is pitch black. The parole board sits cloaked in shadows. This is his fourth hearing. And once again, the answer is no. His request is denied. He'll need to undergo another psychological evaluation. Frustrated and seething, the Lobe lashes out at the unseen panel, cursing and mocking them. Sometime later, Devlin pays the Lobe a visit to discuss his upcoming retirement. He admits that running this prison has never made him rich, and now he wants a payout. Devlin proposes a deal. The Lobe must transfer every cent of his hidden fortune, money he's rumored to have stolen using mind control, into Devlin's account. In return, Devlin promises to help him escape. The Lobe rejects the offer without hesitation. Devlin scoffs, calling him a powerless inmate who's no longer a threat. The Lobe doesn't respond directly, but his expression suggests he knows he may not have a choice. Meanwhile, in the prison clinic, Dr. Isabel is treating Payback and two other inmates. Payback only has minor wounds, but one of the others has been decapitated, his head slowly regenerating thanks to his powers. Officer Morales walks in for a routine checkup, followed shortly by Diego, who's on cleaning duty. While Diego quietly picks up trash, Morales throws out a random threat. "Don't even think about it." Dr. Isabel watches the exchange, clearly unsettled. After Morales leaves, she apologizes to Diego, telling him not everyone here is cruel. Some people still care. She begins sharing stories about a few of the patients she's treating. Moments later, Morales returns to inform Isabel that the Lobe is ready for his psychological evaluation. While Isabel is focused on the Lobe, Payback silently gets up, sneaks behind her, and grabs her by the throat, lifting her off the ground until she loses consciousness. Turning his attention to the Lobe, Payback prepares to kill him. But the Lobe remains calm, even smiling. He doesn't flinch under threat. Just as Payback raises his hand to strike, Diego rushes in and holds him back, stalling just long enough for a guard to arrive and stop the attack. In doing so, Diego saves the Lobe's life, but in breaking the unwritten rule of staying out of others' business, he's crossed a dangerous line. Still, his bold action doesn't go unnoticed. Word spreads, and Diego earns the respect of many inmates who already hated Payback. As a show of appreciation, some even offer him desserts from their meals. Gordon approaches and congratulates Diego, telling him to use this newfound status wisely. It might be the key to survival in a place like this. Soon after, Darius walks up to Diego and says his boss wants to see him. Diego follows him to the Lobe's cell. The Lobe personally thanks Diego for saving his life and offers him a deal. He wants Diego to take over Darius's duties in the kitchen and ensure he receives everything he needs. In return, the Lobe promises he'll help Diego escape once his plan is complete. Diego wants out, but trusting the Lobe feels like a dangerous gamble. He's torn between survival and self-respect. Meanwhile, in the warden's office, Felicia confronts Devlin, warning him that cutting a deal with the Lobe is reckless. He can't be trusted, she says. But Devlin is unfazed. In his mind, running a prison full of supervillains means being worse than the worst of them. To make his point, he presents Felicia with 2 envelopes. One contains a glowing recommendation for her promotion to warden after his retirement. The other details her past infractions, enough to ruin her chances entirely. "Which one I send depends on how you play this," he tells her. The message is clear. Loyalty is currency. The next day, Isabel checks on Payback and decides he's stable enough to leave the clinic. This time, he's cuffed to the hospital bed with a guard on watch. No more surprises. At the same time, Gordon faces his parole board. He pleads his case, explaining how he stayed out of trouble, avoided fights, followed the rules, but the interviewer points out the obvious. Gordon is alone. No visits, no calls, no letters. "You're not ready for the outside world," the interviewer says. Gordon snaps.
I exist, I matter.
But that's all the board needs to hear. His parole is instantly denied. He's dragged out, defeated. At lunch, Diego notices Gordon sitting alone, looking hollow. He asks if he's okay. Gordon says he's fine, but his eyes say otherwise. Just then, Darius walks by and drops a broken fork on the table. Without hesitation, Gordon uses it to disable his PNE device. The riot is officially set in motion. This was the Lobe's plan all along. Gordon turns to Diego. "Thanks for being a friend," he says, then climbs onto a table and taunts a nearby guard. When the guard spots the missing device, he calls for backup. Gordon reaches up, grabs a live power cable from the ceiling, and lets the electricity surge through him. Then, without warning, he fires a bolt of electricity straight into the guard's chest, killing him instantly. Inmates scatter. Diego rushes toward the fallen guard, demanding answers from Gordon, but it's already too late. Gordon overloads the prison's power system, plunging the entire facility into darkness. That's the signal. Across the compound, Jim and his crew begin the riot. As Jim and Payback lock eyes, ready for round 2, guards intervene with electric shocks, knocking them both down before the fight can erupt. Through it all, the Lobe remains calm in his cell, waiting. Back in the control room, Felicia shows Devlin the security footage, clear proof that Gordon's powers have returned. Devlin doesn't hesitate. He orders a full-scale manhunt. In the clinic, Gordon stands quietly at the window, as if resigned to whatever comes next. Suddenly, he's struck from behind. Officer Morales. She radios in, confirming his location. Devlin gives the order, "Eliminate him." Morales hesitates. Then, with no way out, she follows through. Gordon doesn't resist. He knows it's over. He stands still as Morales unleashes a brutal series of blows, caving in his skull. The incident is covered up in the news with Devlin fabricating a story that Gordon tried to escape and fell to his death. Back at the prison, Diego is on a call with his wife when Officer Morales cuts it off and informs him that Devlin wants to speak with him in the solitary section next to the Lobe cell. There, Devlin shows Diego the extreme solitary confinement cell to scare him. The atmosphere inside is like a thunderstorm, and it can kill a person in just 1 second. Devlin then questions Diego about what the Lobe asked him to do. Diego admits that the Lobe only asked him to take a shift in the kitchen and mentioned a name: Carpel Tunnel. Later, Devlin talks to the Lobe about the recent incident. The Lobe denies any involvement. Devlin gets angry and reminds the Lobe about their deal, saying if he doesn't fulfill it before Devlin's retirement, he'll be thrown into the extreme solitary confinement cell. The Lobe knows he can't escape the prison on his own, so he promises to get the money on Devlin's retirement day. However, he asks for the prison's Wi-Fi password in return. Devlin laughs at the request and leaves. Meanwhile, Felicia, Brody, and another officer are in the basement checking the electrical system. Since Diego mentioned the carpal tunnel, Devlin has ordered them to check all the prison tunnels. They discuss what happened to Gordon. And Felicia isn't happy that a prisoner was killed. Brody feels the same, but as the captain, he believes protecting the prison's image is more important, so killing Gordon was justified. One officer says he can fix the generator, but needs help in time. Felicia warns they should fix it quickly, especially before Devlin retires, as things might go wrong on that day. Later, the reconstruction of the basement and electrical system begins. When it's finished, Felicia reports to Devlin and asks about her promotion. Devlin says the board is still deciding, but reassures her that she has a good chance of becoming the next warden. As Devlin's retirement approaches, everyone in the prison is nervous, thinking something big might happen in the prison. Diego talks to the Lobe, asking what's really going on. He wants to escape the prison, but hasn't seen any signs yet. The Lobe tells him to relax and assures him that he'll get him out. But he needs to lay low until Friday, Devlin's last day on the job. The next morning, Felicia receives an email about Brody's candidacy for the next warden. Seeing this, she becomes furious and storms into Devlin's office. She confronts him, pointing out that he had promised her the candidacy. Devlin calmly responds that the board made the decision, not him, and assures her that there will be fair competition between her and Brody. Finally, Devlin's retirement day arrives, marking the moment of truth for both Felicia and Brody. As expected, Devlin plays his double game, and Brody is given the position of warden. Felicia is visibly disappointed. To make matters worse, Devlin recommends Felicia as Brody's assistant, calling her a valuable asset to the prison. After this announcement, Devlin goes straight to the Lobe's cell to get the money from him. He hands the Lobe a tablet and asks him to transfer the money. "I'll make sure you're all comfy. Don't worry." But instead of initiating the wire transfer, the Lobe hacks the tablet and disables all the PN devices of the prisoners. He had already obtained the Wi-Fi password from Devlin. In a cruel twist, Devlin had used the same password for every security system in the prison. With a few taps, the Lobe disables all the PNE devices in one move. Instantly, chaos erupts. The inmates, finally free to unleash their powers, go berserk. Fire spews from mouths, toxic gases fill the air, limbs regenerate on the spot, and raw strength tears through walls. The entire facility becomes a battlefield. Officers scramble to retreat, outnumbered and outmatched, all except Morales. Her own abilities allow her to stand her ground, holding off wave after wave of superpowered attackers. At the clinic, Diego starts losing control. His empathic powers come flooding back, overwhelming his mind with a tidal wave of emotions. Elsewhere, Felicia realizes how bad things have gotten and rushes to warn Devlin. But it's already too late. The Lobe springs his next trap. Devlin is locked inside the Lobe's own cell. Another perfect piece in the puzzle. The riot grows even more violent. Prisoners slaughter guards, clash with one another, and tear through the compound. In the chaos, Payback and Jim finally cross paths again. No more words, just fists. Jim's brute strength gives him the upper hand, and he pummels Payback mercilessly. But just before he can finish the job, another inmate intervenes, drawing Jim's attention away. Payback escapes deeper into the prison. Meanwhile, Brody radios Felicia for help. She tells him the only way to stop the riot is to reset the electrical system in the basement, reactivating the PNE devices. But there's one problem. Jim saw him heading down and is now following him. In the basement, Brody's connection to Felicia cuts in and out. He struggles to identify the right breaker. Then, footsteps echo. Jim is there, hunting. Brody hides, but Jim finds him fast. They fight. Brody swings, but nothing lands. Jim easily dominates, slamming him against a wall. But by sheer luck, it's the same wall with the emergency breaker Brody needs. Summoning every last ounce of strength, Brody breaks free, grabs a nearby pipe, and cracks it open, releasing a burst of gas right into Jim's face. Blinded and stumbling, Jim falls backward into the generator. Sparks fly. The machine shorts out. Inside the Lobe cell, Warden Devlin seems surprisingly calm despite the all-out war tearing the prison apart. It's his final day on the job, and his only concern is the massive payout he just received from the Lobe. In his mind, the deal is done. He's rich, untouchable. But then, the Lobe drops a bombshell. The entire system shut down. The chaos, the riot, it was all his doing. All it took was the prison's Wi-Fi password. Devlin had handed him the keys without even realizing it. Still, Devlin feels invincible. The money's in his account. As far as he's concerned, he's already won. What he doesn't know is that the Lobe isn't finished. As Devlin looks at him, something shifts, an invisible pressure inside his skull. Without warning, he reels back and punches the Lobe in the face. Something's wrong, but he can't explain it. Moments later, the prison's power flickers back on. The PNE devices reactivate. Inmates across the facility collapse. Their powers gone. The riot is over. Guards rush to the Lobe's cell. Devlin orders them to move him to extreme solitary confinement. Outside, Felicia is waiting. Devlin surprises her with an unexpected announcement. She's the new warden. A sudden change of heart. Felicia is stunned and genuinely moved. Elsewhere, Payback sits atop a mountain of corpses, his own brutal handiwork. Days later, Diego visits Dr. Isabel in the clinic. He tells her he's being transferred to a new facility, one better suited for his empathic powers. The government is now sorting prisoners by ability, and Diego no longer belongs here. Meanwhile, Felicia settles into her new role. She removes Devlin's nameplate from the office door and tosses his old chess piece into the trash. The prison is hers now. Brody, disillusioned, resigns his post and hands over the rank of captain to Morales. And then, one final twist. Devlin returns to the prison to pick up Darius, who's just been released. But something is off. This isn't Devlin anymore. The Lobe transferred his consciousness into Devlin's body, most likely the moment Devlin struck him in the cell. That's why he moved the money into Devlin's account. That's why he let his original body rot in solitary. That's why Felicia, and not Brody, was made warden. Because the Lobe didn't just escape the prison, he became it.